Hey, yo, how's everybody doing? It is Friday. Oh man, November 7th. What a week it's been, and really what a month it's been. It has been pretty exhausting. Obviously, um, things are pumping today. So you love to see that. Question is it sustainable? So we're going to talk about some of the things that have led up to those events. What's happening a little bit in the macro side of things. I'm going to talk about some deep in updates for sure. And then what's causing these coins to pump? It's the Dino coins. We've seen a lot of these projects that have been around for years that are pumping out of nowhere. Doesn't seem that organic to me. Seems a little bit weird, but we're going to talk a little bit about what could be leading to that. And again, we'll check in on the deep end plays, the high conviction plays that I have. But the big thing is what's happening right now on the macro side of things. The government shutdown's having major implications on liquidity right now. And it's not just the banks. So we talked about how the banking systems had a lot of liquidity issues recently, been drawing on the repo markets, but it's hitting the crypto markets too. I saw a post in one of the Discord groups I'm in. They're talking about how the digital asset treasuries have not been able to raise any funding because the government shut down. They haven't been able to go through the means that are necessary with the SEC to be able to raise funds. So we have this situation where, we had the big washout on October 10th, and it's caused this cascading of price action. And the DATs, where the institutional money flows have kind of been propping up the markets, they can't add any more buying pressure right now. And they've been kind of faced with this situation where I think some of them have been selling for sure. So you've kind of had this unwinding to an extent. So all that to say, I think once the government is up and running again, that should certainly help matters. Now, how will the markets react? It's hard to say. A lot of times, it's like it ends up being a sell the news event. I don't think the liquidity just on like the second the government opens is going to like flow through into crypto assets like instantly, right? It takes time for some of that stuff to come to fruition. So I think that there are liquidity issues right now that will be solved with the government being back up and running again. But I don't think it's going to happen necessarily instantly. But I think we could see markets rally potentially. What does the time frame look like? Well, right now, it's it's hard to say. I mean, there are reports that the Democrats and Schumer in particular are looking to get something done here. I'm seeing some speculation that maybe something as soon as Sunday could happen before the markets open on Monday. But if you look here, I mean, still a 50% chance this thing extends out. We're already in the longest government shutdown in history right now. And Besant is already saying, hey, it's having a major impact on the economy. Okay, so not ideal. So a lot of uncertainty there. We have a lot of uncertainty with the December Fed meeting, right? Like Jerome Powell said, there's not a guarantee we'll have a rate cut. Right now, though, if you see things are ticking up, I mean, there's a lot of people, over 70% now, expect a rate cut in December. So you better hope it happens. If it doesn't, that would be a shock to markets, right? So we don't know exactly what's going to happen there. I would say right now it's looking likely that we will see a rate cut. But I think this does a good job of summing things up. When liquidity dries up, the bull run ends. It's not about valuation, ignore the noise. So the government's opening, that should help. December 1st, we know quantitative tightening is ending. There's expected to be more rate cuts, right? The big thing that I think that we need to keep an eye on, though, is quantitative easing. And there is the Fed Reserve, according to the New York Fed president, hinted that he believes quantitative easing is going to begin soon, that the markets need it. That, to me, is really what we need to be paying attention to when you look at liquidity in markets. Quantitative tightening ending is great. The government being up and running is great. But I don't expect that we're going to see some massive surge in markets, new all-time highs for Bitcoin, and a full-on alt season necessarily until we see quantitative easing happen. If this is the case, if it does happen sooner than people are anticipating, I think that could be what we're waiting for. That, again, though, the news of that is one thing. It takes time, though, for liquidity to enter markets and funnel through. So I don't know this is necessarily something that's going to happen overnight. That said, we're seeing some crazy action in the markets today. There's no doubt about it. If you look at, let's pull up the fear and greed index real quick. We have in 9 minutes, in under 10 minutes, we have a new fear and greed index metric coming out. Okay, so we're at 24 right now. I would imagine after what we've seen today, this is going to move up to an extent. Bitcoin has been just trying to touch down. It's hit the 98, 99 several times, and it continues to bounce back. The big question is, can we hold that? If we break down below that, and I don't think we're out of the woods, guys. This could absolutely start happening. We've got somebody in here saying Bitcoin's gonna be worth nothing in 6 months. No, I don't think that's the case. We'd have to see something absolutely crazy happen for that to be the case, like nuclear war, quantum computing breaks all the encryption, and I don't know, aliens land on Earth. I mean, to say it's impossible, but I think it's improbable. But this is key, guys. I mean, if we see Bitcoin break down, and again, we need to continue keeping an eye on this below the 98, 99,000. Then it's down to the next level of support, and I think we see things bleed out. We saw the stock market start to get hit. Fear and greed index is pretty bad. It did rebound later in the day, but liquidity concerns are there. Job market concerns are there. Overall, in the economy, there's major concerns. With Ethereum, we've seen a little bit of a bounce as well. Still holding at 3,400. The key level there, I think, is 28 if that drops down. But the big story has been Zcash. This is one that Brandon, I'm going to talk about more here in a minute. He called it at $80. This thing was like dead, and I'm in the long time frame here because, I mean, we just claimed prices that hadn't been seen since 2021, and this is something that we haven't seen in this market cycle. Most alts from the last market cycle, we've not seen them hit new all-time highs again. So where is this coming from? Where is this demand coming from? We've seen this in prior market cycles where an old coin just goes parabolic and starts up a bull run. I'm not so sure, guys. Like, I think we need to be really, really, really cautious on this. I would not be at all surprised if we see price breakdown again this weekend. I think we have to kind of see how this plays out. We're seeing a lot of coins pump today. I personally have taken some chips off the table from some of those pumps. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. Bitcoin dominance sitting at 60%. So that has actually been dropping a little bit today. We've been seeing it tick up over 60%. Again, it's in a very precarious spot right now. The market is. There's a lot of different factors in play, but seeing the dumps that we've seen recently, and the volume on the alts is low, liquidity is low. Ever since the October 10th washout, we've seen a lot of liquidity out of markets, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of the alts pumping right now. It does not feel organic to me. It does to me feel like the liquidity's thin. Market makers potentially pumping tokens to try to get people back into the market for another washout. That's what it feels like to me. I hope I'm wrong. Now, you're seeing this stuff on your timeline. Like, this guy's talking about, we're still going to drop to 75,000. Remember, we have another low to come. These are 100% exit pumps. These are the things that, I think in the short term we need to be aware of, right? But things like this. What are your conviction plays? Okay. We're going to talk about Demo. What happened there? They had a hack, unfortunately. This guy has been very, very spot on throughout the market. He's been pretty good with his analysis. He says he thinks this is a bounce, and then we go lower again in a few days. Okay. So for me, he said all going to zero. I disagree with that. So I think that, a lot of alts will go to zero. I do think so. I still believe, though, that there are a number of deep in projects that will decouple. And I think helium's the first one we have to keep an eye on. If helium can do it, I think that's really the make or break time for deep in my opinion, because helium has the revenue. They now have the token burns in the market, open market buys tied to revenue. So we have to see if helium can do it. If helium can do it, guys, I think we can see a great decoupling from the rest of the market. He says, deepen will decouple. I don't even know who these people are. We have some new people in here today. Decouple and go to zero. I think a lot of the altcoins will, guys. But I think that we have some deep in projects that are going to make it. And I'm excited about that. And that actually, let me pull up Brandon real quick, because I joined his Discord group. This guy has been the best of anyone that I've found this year. I've really focused on finding the people that had made the calls when the market's down. Okay. In the bull market, everyone has good calls, like some better than others. Like Sistine Research was one that I made a lot of money from his calls in 2024 and going back into 2023, actually. Brandon, though, guys, this guy, I think he's made like over $100 million this year. And his whole thesis is not around market cycles. In fact, he said today he doesn't think the 4-year cycle's over because of institutional money coming in. It is his whole thesis is really like, take what the market gives you. Okay, don't try to predict what's coming. Look at the charts, and the charts can tell you the story, right? He shorts the markets when things are weak, right? So he's not it's just a spot holder hoping for a bull market at all times. He's made a tremendous amount of money this year. But the other thing that I thought was really the biggest takeaway for me was he is a trader, and he says there's really 6 to 8 weeks out of the year where you can make your money. The rest of the time, you kind of just have to be patient and not force things. And he's done very, very well. So this guy is absolutely crushing it, man. More recently, he called Zcash at $80. He called the Trump meme coin. He called Aster very early on. He called, I mean, he's had just call after call after call this year. And a lot of it he has just made public on his X account. So I am in his Discord now. So I'm excited about adding that into kind of my research. And he says he's a market manipulator. Oh man, people love to hate on other people that are really successful in this space. It's kind of funny, but the guy, look, you can't argue with the fact that he's been very successful. Now, one thing I will break away from him on is the fact that he does believe that every single crypto altcoin is going to go to zero for sure, and he doesn't think that fundamentals matter at all. I think what we're seeing in Deepin, I think people are not aware of it because it is different in the sense that there's actually revenue and a product market fit and a real business being built. You look at something like Aoki Network, because Brandon's very bullish on robotics. Aoki Network is working with some of the biggest Chinese robotics companies on the perception layer, the real world web. They have 7-figure contracts with robotics companies. You look at Helium. They have open market buys, and we'll look at the charts since they announced that they're doing open market buys. They have millions of dollars in revenue coming through the door. That's very different from what we've seen in the past with crypto projects. GeoNet, just getting a tremendous amount of usage. Their revenue metrics, and I've covered it this week, but are in high growth mode. There are, in 375 AI is another one, guys. The data that they're selling, they already have a Fortune 20 company buying their data. You look at the CEOs and the founders of some of these projects, very smart, also worked in the Web2 space. A lot of them have very successful businesses and exits. So I do believe that there are plays, but I think that 99% of altcoins are going to fucking zero, okay, in crypto. And that is my thought. Let's see. Let's look at some comments real quick before we look at some of the deep in stuff. No, Joe. No. I don't know what toys you're buying, buddy. So here's kind of my thought here before we get into the deep end stuff. Going into this market cycle, I think I had like price targets in mind, and instead of really um, just when there's extreme greed in the market in 2023, I found some really good hidden gems that did really really well, and made some good money on a lot of those. I think for some of the plays, though, while I took some really nice profits, I should have taken more heavier profits instead of having a price target in mind. Identified that the market was getting overheated. Now, I think adding something like Brandon's thought process, where hey, I think when the market's in extreme fear, finding your conviction plays that are low caps and undervalued. Like I think 375 AI to me is one of those plays right now that I've been adding to. But I think also being able to identify market trends, short the market on some of the higher liquidity projects, and also when to go long on some of these, like a Zcash, right? If you just hit, I mean, really from the 2023 market, just hitting two of those, you're chilling. And I think there's a lot of those opportunities right now in deep end that over the next year or two will do really, really well. And I think in the interim, to Brandon's point, like 6 to 8 weeks out of the year, actively trade during those times, I think you can do quite well. And looking at the deep end side of things, I mean, look at this stuff. I mean, look at what's happening today. It's kind of insane. But is this organic? I think people are getting really excited right now that we're going to have this full on alt season. I'm not so sure that's the case. I would not at all be surprised if we see a pullback here after this surge. We've seen things so oversold. Of course, we were going to get a bounce at some point. That's why, like with Arweave, I took some money off the table today. I purchased at the higher price points than we were at, but I also DCA'd after the October 10th crash. I added a nice bag. If we look at the chart here, this thing wicked all the way down to $1.30. And this is a great example. Like, while I did have purchases at higher price points earlier in the year when we had, fear in the markets, I freaking bought while we were down here. And now this thing is just shot up. So to me, I'm not convinced that we are in a full on bull run right now, in alt season coming up with these Dino coins pumping. So I took some money off the table. Now, what are we sitting at? 846. If you look at the all-time high over the course of the year, I think if we break above 9, we could see things move higher. So I didn't sell my whole bag. I just took some chips off the table. So I have some cash I'm sitting on, right, in this play. When you see something pump like this thing freaking moved like 120% over the last week. In these type of conditions where we don't know, there's a lot of uncertainty in markets. We haven't seen like a trend reversal in the overall market. My question is like, where is the liquidity going to come from? We have the market structure bill that might get passed by the end of this year, but there are reports that could add as much as $10+ trillion. That's going to take years to come into the ecosystem. I think quantitative easing needs to happen before we see any really, really solid moves. So anything like this does go to show you, though, like when there's extreme fear in markets, we have a washout like we had. If you had added down here, and I did, you'd have a 2.5x, right? So that is the power in buying when you have extreme fear in markets. But then you look at something like Demo. Do you guys see the freaking sell-off? No, I can't. I don't want to speak any slower, bro. Sorry, man. Demo, I don't know if you guys saw what happened with that, with their token. We saw this drop off yesterday, all the way from 3.5 cents, which had been kind of consolidating in. It wicked all the way down to 1.7 cents. Everyone's like, what the hell happened? Guys, they had a hack. So somebody got in, got unauthorized access to one of their developer keys, and were able to get access to 30 million Demo, 3% of their total supply, and sold. So we had this massive sell-off. Now, I point this out because sometimes when this stuff happens, if you have conviction in Demo long-term, that's the question, right? If you have conviction in Demo long-term, sometimes it can work out to take advantage of something like this, right? If you'd hopped on this right away, obviously you could have gotten back at 2.2 cents. You'd be up quite a bit right now. So it depends on what your sentiment is around the project long term. Sometimes you can use these events to get a better entry point. But that is why Demo dropped, by the way. I was wondering. But looking at Helium, though, and this is the one that I think we really need to be paying attention to see if DeepIn can decouple. This is the date right back here. We are at $1.79 when they announced they're going to be doing open market buys. And you see now we are up quite a bit. We're at like $2.50, guys. That is a huge freaking move up. And this is before this pump like this week, right? I think that this goes to show when you have open market buys and you have revenue that's providing support for your token price, what can happen. And if we can see Helium decouple from the rest of the market, I think this does go to show that, hey, DeepIn can decouple and become its own sector within crypto that actually has a use case and revenue that drives support of the token. Now, we're seeing this in the worst of market conditions. I mean, imagine what happens when you start having speculative money come in again and rotate into the space. When that happens, right? No one has a crystal ball. But I think this is the project we need to keep an eye on and watch very, very closely because if it can succeed from a price standpoint, that is when I think we can take DeepIn very, very seriously. But we have to be still very careful at which DeepIn projects we're looking at. So a lot of the DeepIn projects, guys, we're hoping to come in and run off the narrative this market cycle. There's no doubt about it. They had no product market fit. They have no ways to meaningful revenue. Those are the ones that are going to get exposed and are already starting to. The days of just being able to come in and just ride the hype train, I think, are leaving us very quickly. But the ones that are serious, like 375 AI, for example, because that's a serious project. Those are the ones that I've been adding to. They just announced today they're on the Coinbase DEX, now on Coinbase Prime. That's freaking massive. I mean, they just launched. You look at this one. They obviously launched, huge sell-off. Market conditions, the worst time you could have possibly launched a token. We're sitting at 3.6 cents. Guys, I mean, I've been DCAing all the way since I put out my first video, getting it at 2.8 cents. My mindset on this, though, is a longer-term mindset. It's not like, hey, I'm trying to trade this and, buy a Lambo tomorrow. I'm like, hey, the CEO is fucking legit. They built out a network that's collecting useful data. He has his last, exit that the company he co-founded sold for $380 million, and they sold data. He has a Fortune 20 company already buying from them, and their early investors bought in at 5.5 cents. So I see people that don't even look at the project, don't understand the project. They're like, look at this scam. It's like, you're fucking stupid. Look at the project. Look at the path to revenue. Look at the team behind the project. Like, these prices are crazy to me. That's why I'm adding to projects like this. This is like the time right now when everyone is like so negative and is telling you it's all going to zero. You're an idiot, blah, 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 blah. Finding these types of projects, in my opinion, these are the ones I did this in 2022 and 2023 when everyone said that crypto was over and that Solana was dead when I was buying at $8 and $9 and $10, and everyone was saying how stupid everyone was for buying. Well, we all know how that played out, right? Right now, $7.8 million market cap. Like, come on, man. Like that. Either way, you all do with that what you will. That's not financial advice. It depends on your time frame. It depends on your risk tolerance. To me, I know that if we have a major pullback here, some of these can go lower. But I'm not looking like 375 AI. I'm not looking at it as a play I want to sell next week, right? It's something that I'm looking to hold while market conditions get better, while quantitative easing happens, while the economy gets better. These things all are going to end up leading to liquidity coming back into the markets, guys. Where are they going to go? Well, hopefully to the real projects, right? I think memes are pretty fucking dead at this point. I hope. They have been for a while now. I hope it doesn't come back again. Let's talk about Hive Mapper. So Hive Mapper announced that they're doing a trade-in. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around this program. See, a lot of people are like super pissed that have the old HDCs. So the way this works, guys, is if you have an old HDC or HDCS that's still working, you can trade it in, buy a new B dash cam, which is $579. And you can get an airdrop once you map with it of 30,000 honey at current prices, about $300. So it brings the purchase price down to $279 if honey stays, the pricing stays the same. Doing the math on this, because you still are going to have to pay for a $10 data plan, right? Through Helium Mobile. If you want to do unless you want to do Wi-Fi, I suppose, Wi-Fi Connect. In my opinion, it makes more sense just to do the monthly payment of $19. If you have drivers that are going to be freaking out there on the road all the time, like, take out the $10 for the Helium Mobile plan. That's a $9 a month delta. You think about that over a 2-year period. What is that? 9 times 24. It's $216. Okay, you pay over a 2-year period versus paying up front, getting 30,000 honey, speculating what the price could be, having to deal with warranties. Like, I would rather just do the 2-year plan on a monthly payment than place it with the drivers that are going to be driving a lot. I think that makes more sense in my opinion. And you have safety in that you don't have to worry about warranty claims and all that. Right. So to me, that I think that makes more sense. Now, if you want to speculate that honey can move up, well, maybe that 30,000 honey all of a sudden, I mean, if we see it gets to 3 cents, well, all of a sudden you're way ahead. So it depends, I guess, on your viewpoint here. But that's how I'm thinking through this. I do have some of the Helium Mobile plans, SIM cards being mailed to me right now at $10 a month to plug in the Bs that I have. So, Aoki Network sitting at 1.5 cents, $15 million market cap. Really a $55 million market cap if you look at all their unlocked tokens, but they have a bunch that are sitting in like treasuries and stuff that, even though they're unlocked, they're not being utilized. This is a project, guys, that they're working with, in the robotics space. They're working with Chinese robotics manufacturers. They're doing real shit. They have customers. They're working with a lot of grocery stores. They have revenue coming through the door. Like, this is one that when the robotics sector takes off, it should go absolutely parabolic. But again, what is that time frame? So that's the thing that people need to think about here is like, we could have a run up. Government, opens. We have quantitative tightening ending on December 1st. Maybe we get the market structure bill. The Fed cuts rates in December. Quantitative easing starts. Those things could all come together, sure. But what if the Fed doesn't cut rates, right? What if we do see another pullback in markets because people are scared of the economy? Are these plays something that you are willing to hold for a year before the market really takes off? These are the things I'm thinking about. With Aoki, sure. Like, that's how I'm looking at this, is like, it'd be great if the market really rebounds here in the short term, but this is a high conviction play for me. I feel very confident that it'll be up a lot in the future. Right. So that's how I'm looking at these plays. GeoNet, same thing, sitting at 13 cents, $57 million market cap. I'm looking at the fundamentals, and the revenue growth. The main thing with GeoNet, though, is looking further out. They have a halving event every June. So emissions are getting cut in half. Revenue is going in the opposite trajectory. This thing's going to get net deflationary, especially at these price points. So looking at that just from a freaking mathematical standpoint, like, the token price is going to start getting pushed up at a certain point. But, you're looking at, again, June, right? And that's like taking out of, the market conditions we can't control. So I'm just looking at fundamentally the token mechanics. How does that work? Looking at the time frame, June is when we see the halving event. So, this is a project that, I have to be willing to hold on to for some time. So anyway, that again is how I'm looking at it. And then let's see, I got a couple of my degen plays I'm still holding small bags in. this Airbnb one, again, I've covered many a times. $32,000 market cap. They're building a house in Brazil, auctioning it off. Shit can go to zero, guys, but it can get, if it goes viral, it's the type of shit that could go off, right? It's a lottery ticket play. It's a lottery ticket play. High risk. Okay, same thing with this one. I covered this one, guys, earlier this year, like $38,000 market cap. We're already at fucking sitting at like what, a 5x? Upsides there. This thing got up to, when it was up to over $2 million market cap at one point. So 2 lottery tickets. I don't dabble much in like the meme coin space, and in this case, both have a story behind them. It's a very small percentage, very, very small percentage of my portfolio. But guys, I've hit pretty big on some meme coins over the course of, at first I was like, I hate meme coins, like blah, blah, get off my yard, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, you know what? If there's capital rotations going there, sometimes it's worth taking a small percentage, in my opinion, to hit. And I have. In fact, I hit as much on a couple of meme coin plays as I did on a lot of my deep end plays. It sucks. I hate it, but like you have to look at capital rotations, man. So that is the deal, y'all. Did you see VTC? What's VTC? I don't know what that is. Is that a meme coin? VTC. I don't know what that is. I found this project here. It's an $80 million market cap. Damn. This day pumped, huh? But it launched at like a $20 million market cap. Is this like a legit project? This can't just be a meme coin. No, I don't know this one. And you know what? I have to say, like, that's Vertcoin. Liquidity. This is not even a real coin. This can't be it. Liquidity is $119. Daniel Keller does. He is a little opinionated, isn't he? So here's the deal, guys. Like, this has been a tough year, man, for reals. But I think the amount that I've learned this year is crazy. I've read like several economics books. And I was a finance major. The amount I learned just studying the market this year with like the tariffs and all the freaking crazy stuff that's happened. Like, I think this year I learned more than I learned in like 4 years in college. Seriously. It's been a wealth of knowledge digging into markets every single day. But I also I've changed my thesis as well. Like, I think one of the things I've learned as far as for the next 3 years, there's gonna be a lot of volatility under Trump, man. That's the one thing we'd expect. The thing that sucks, you can't predict it in many cases. But what you can do is manage risk and make sure that you can take advantage of the swings in the market by having a bag of stable coins at all times and making sure that, market's getting overheated, that you're not getting greedy. That's the hardest part. When there's fear in the markets, it's just as hard to be able to DCA into plays for sure. But I'd say, taking out profits in many ways is just as hard, because it was not even a year ago. I remember all over the timeline, everyone's like, oh, market's never dropping again. We're never going to see another bear market. And I looked at those and I was like, oh my God, like this is what we saw back in the euphoria stage in the last market cycle. Now you're seeing the opposite. Everyone's like, crypto's dead. Everything's going to zero. Nothing's ever going to pump again. Right? People are very emotional. There's a whole emotional dynamic to, especially the crypto markets. And it's really important sometimes to just go touch grass and kind of drown out the noise, because there's a lot of fucking noise in this space, man. There's a lot of it. A lot of pessimism and a lot of people being overly euphoric when the market's up. It's really, really important. And that's one of the things I've been studying, is like the emotional dynamic of markets this year, man. It's been pretty wild, really. But I am excited moving forward. Like, I have my high conviction plays. I've been DCAing, have pulled some money out of some of these pumps. But I also have, a fair amount of stable coins that now adding some of these, these other analysis through Brandon, looking at cysteine research, being patient to play like the high conviction plays in those short periods of time where it makes sense to trade and not force things. As Warren Buffett says, and I've said this a million times, be greedy when other people are fearful and fearful when other people are greedy. Guys, that's like the most basic psychology there is for markets, and it is absolutely true. All that said, I think there are very exciting times ahead, but be cautious with these pumps. We'll see how the market plays out through the rest of the weekend. Hopefully we get some good news on Sunday regarding the market shutdown. We will see. Appreciate you all. Guys, make sure, he said crypto's a lottery. In many ways, yes. But I think that there are ways to give yourself better odds than playing the traditional lottery, for sure. There's no doubt about that, in my opinion. The Beaver Moon. I'll tell you what, man, the markets are good today. I'm actually up a lot on some of my projects. Some of those ones that I bought in the extreme fear are freaking made a lot of money today. I was also excited to pull out some cash on some of those that pump too. I'm not gonna lie. That way I could just prep. You can't predict it, man. You can't predict what's going to happen. You can look at the events taking place, and then you can react to an extent to markets. Oh man! Well, all that said, guys, hope you all have a fantastic Friday. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will be with you all again next week. Peace.